Okay, before you go ahead and smash that dislike button, hear me out and then you can smash that dislike button. And subscribe. So anime movies go kind of crazy, yes? And thankfully it's okay to say that without getting bullied these days. And in the world of anime movies, there's the big three: Shinkai Makoto, Hosoda Mamoru, and Miyazaki Hayao. These men are the most famous and influential directors that have had multiple huge hits under their name. Out of these men, Miyazaki Hayao is the king. Like, this man has never missed and is the only Japanese director who won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. I could go on for hours about how this man is a legend, from his unique directing style to the amazing art, animation, and storytelling in his films. But mainly, I just want to say that he's kind of hot. Now he's retired. Sort of. Well, he might as well be retired because he's like 80, and other than the soon-to-release The Boy in the Heron, his last movie was in 2013. Another classic, by the way. And so we are left with Shinkai Makoto and Hosoda Mamoru. But which of these two will take up the mantle? Well, in terms of popularity, Shinkai Makoto is probably bigger, with Your Name being the third highest grossing anime movie of all time. But I'm not here to compare Shinkai Makoto to Miyazaki and say he's overrated just because I don't think he's as good. That's just not fair, but I will compare him a bit to Hosoda Mamoru. So Shinkai Makoto's most famous movies are 5 cm per second, Garden of Words, Your Name, Weathering with You, which I don't know why they didn't just stick to the actual translation of the Japanese title and called it Weather Child, because Weathering with You sounds kind of embarrassing, but maybe that's just because I'm a single, insecure 20-year-old brat. And the most recently released Suzume. Out of these movies, my favorite is Your Name. Or Kimi no Na wa if you're a weeb, but then again, I guess I'm the one who studied Japanese. Anyways, Your Name is the most well done. Even though it reuses the same ideas from Shinkai Makoto's other movies, a young relationship separated by distance and time, the approach this one takes has the most impactful storytelling, with the literal body swapping of two people from completely different environments connected spiritually by lore that has layers upon layers with the shrines and the meaning behind the comet's name, and also connected physically by the red thread as they try to save each other while loosely communicating, and then falling in love even though they never actually met but also sort of have because they're living in each other's bodies. Like, that's insane. The plot twist with them living 3 years apart is insane, and there were so many memorable scenes. It really is an absolute roller coaster ride that introduces so many different ideas and side stories, and yet is still able to tie things up and answer the what about it question. That doesn't mean that Your Name doesn't have any issues, but considering the movie as a whole, those issues are fairly minor. All of Shinkai Makoto's other big movies, however, just feel like worse versions of Your Name. Again, they're mainly built around the themes of nature and young relationships separated by distance and time, but these movies just don't feel like they have as much thought put into them. They just show different scenarios and issues without really saying anything significant about them. 5 cm per second lazily shows how people drift apart, slaps your heartstrings a bit, and says learn to move on. Garden of Words starts off a little more interesting, how it's about these two outcasts, one having an obsession with feet and the other being a teacher at that boy's school, so their relationship itself would be taboo. Like, dang, that's juicy stuff, and kind of reminds me how my English teacher when I studied abroad in Japan was kind of, wow. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, she was into German soccer players. So eventually the boy crafts these shoes for the woman as an excuse to touch her feet, and the shoes are meant to symbolize how he is helping her assimilate back into society. That's cute and all, but then at the end she half rejects him and moves away, and he's like, "Woman, one day I will find you again." And that's it. I'm fine with slightly ambiguous endings, but in this case, it kind of leaves a giant hole in the plot. One of the main and juiciest parts of this movie is that these two outcasts, 12 years apart in age, have feelings for each other. So I want to know what Shinkai Makoto thinks of this. What is he trying to say about it? The messages don't need to be anything crazy or complicated, but take Hosoda Mamoru's movies as an example. He also reuses the main ideas of families and human connections, but each time he does, he tackles an interesting angle and says something different. Mirai is from the perspective of a 4-year-old boy as he travels through time and learns to see his ancestors as real people, as well as the importance of family through powerful scenes such as playing with his mom as a child, watching his great-grandpa fight to survive, and working together with his grown-up baby sister. When we try to do something similar in the US, we got Boss Baby. Wolf Children is about a mother trying to raise her half-human, half-wolf children on her own as they grow up to choose their own different paths, unconsciously hiding her own selfish hopes for them, while also highlighting the significance of nature versus nurture. And finally, Belle has an optimistic view for the future and is about how the digital world can bring out the best in people, but also cautions that in order to truly connect with someone, you have to make yourself vulnerable. All of these movies say something valuable about ourselves and gives guidance to future generations. Except for Boy and the Beast and Summer Wars. Those movies were kind of weird. Shinkai Makoto's movies don't really leave an impression in the same way Hosoda Mamoru's do. So after Your Name came Weathering with You, and it starts off pretty strong by introducing some interesting conflicts and themes, but then ultimately turned out to be a giant mess as it fails to wrap up most of the ideas or side characters introduced, with its awful pacing that spends 70% of its time showing these two kids getting frisky. Watching anime with teenagers getting frisky might have been my thing when I was in middle school and high school, but now, as a grizzled 20-year-old man who has nothing to look forward to other than the sweet release of death, I'm kind of over it and feel like devoting such an unnecessarily big chunk of the movie to it is not only a waste of screen time, but also narrows the audience. Okay? My tastes have matured. The movie also kept being distracting with the embarrassing High School Musical pop song sing-along portions with lyrics on the screen, and the Your Name cameos that failed to hit because I was too busy trying to make sense of the messy plot. I thought Shinkai Makoto went completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to the point of no return with Weathering with You. But then Suzume came out. I would place Suzume in second place after Your Name on my Shinkai Makoto tier list. It had a 6 start with the Nier Automata music playing as they closed the first door, and I liked how it took place in the flooded world left by the previous movie. Good pacing, good slice of life moments, funny, good looking dude. I did, however, get kind of bored of the whole cat and mouse chase after the first few encounters, but nice message centered around appreciating everything life has to offer. And thank goodness they trashed the sing-along portions. But this movie also has the same issue as a lot of his other movies of not being able to answer the what about it question when it comes to the abandoned areas of Japan. These abandoned areas are a central part to the conflict because they are where the worm appears, and they are a big issue in Japan resulting from the population decreasing and people moving to denser areas, as I learned from watching all those abandoned place videos by Mr. Broad. So I wanted them to be more significant than just a stylistic choice or a weak parallel to something else in the movie. I wanted Shinkai Makoto to say something about them, which is what really kept this movie from reaching the next level. And though we can all agree that the art in Shinkai Makoto's movies is breathtaking, the animation does not keep up. It's stiff and doesn't add much in terms of expressing the characters in the world. Okay, so I bashed a lot on Shinkai Makoto, but there is one thing that he and Hosoda Mamoru do better than even Miyazaki, and that is how the characters in their movies have faults. They're not pure or perfect. They are all flawed and make mistakes, which is what makes them feel more real and strengthen the themes about human connections. Miyazaki's characters, and according to Mamoru Hosoda, the female ones especially, while not perfect, are not really flawed to the same realistic extent. Which is why Hosoda Mamoru absolutely roasted Miyazaki like a turkey on Thanksgiving by saying that Miyazaki does not have confidence in himself as a man, which basically translates to, you are a beta male. So the moral of this video is that Shinkai Makoto is overrated because he's not as good looking as Hosoda Mamoru or Miyazaki, but at least he makes better movies than Disney. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, because I am not the smartest man on the planet. I don't even think I'm the second smartest man on the planet. Thanks for watching, press the like button and subscribe, and good night.